really begin? Where did you, I met you when you were already a photographer. I met you at shows. So
Yeah. So, it all kind of started from, well, I guess we have to kind of trace back music, photography, and where they kind of cross paths. For me, I was always really into a wide spectrum of music. I grew up on a lot of like classic rock, a lot of like Latin music on my mom's side, and
nice.
then three older sisters. They listened to a lot of like early 2000s kind of like hip hop, R&B,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So when I was growing up, I had a wide variety of music that I would kind of listen to. So I never really stuck to one kind of genre. And when probably when I was like in high school, I started to more venture out into kind of like my own stuff, so more like house music and kind of
Yeah.
electronic stuff. And I found kind of like my niche. I didn't really like get along with, I was pretty introverted in high school, and so going online and just kind of like finding music and finding a little crowd of people that I really like enjoyed the same type of music as me was kind of like my escape. And so I didn't really pick up photography probably until I was like 17 or 18. I started going to my first like kind of underground like raves and shows when I was probably like 17. And then I want to say high school senior year, and maybe even the year before that, I had borrowed my mom's, or I think it was my sister's. Yeah, it was my sister's Canon Rebel old DSLR.
Nice.
Nothing crazy. It was nice for, when it came out.
Right. Right.
But I just kind of picked it up kind of just because I was always into art. My family is a very art influenced family. They're all really good
That's dope.
artists, drawing, painting, stuff like that. A lot of really good cooks too. I like that stuff,
Hmm.
but there was kind of a disconnect for me. And so I think I took an art class in like an elective class in high school senior year, and I was really kind of getting into like all these different formats of art, and then photography was kind of brought up as a medium. And so I borrowed my sister's camera at the time, and it just kind of clicked, like having the camera in my hands. It was a cool way to kind of go outside, explore, the area. I would go to San Francisco a lot. I actually had a really good friend of mine, Andrew, that I grew up with, that he also had a camera that he would borrow from his family, and we'd actually go up to San Francisco, shoot street stuff, just take candid photos of people walking around. Really simple stuff, but it was just like a cool way to kind of meet with people. And also, that's when I first started kind of getting into Instagram and going to, like, at the time, these big Insta meets were really popular, where there'd be like a really
Yeah, I
popular
remember
page.
that. I remember that
Yeah,
when that used to happen. Yeah, like the meetups, the little pop-up meetups. Yeah.
yeah. They would be super popular, and we'd go to those. And what was cool was you'd meet people from basically all different skill levels. You'd meet people that were just doing it as a hobby, people that were doing it more professionally, and then you'd also get to network with people that were models, that wanted to be models,
Right.
that, it was just like a cool, like open community of just like creative people.
And that was like early on, like when like influencers were starting to become a thing too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a trip to think about. And so that's kind of where I learned a majority of what I know today, and how I kind of learned the mechanics and a lot of the technical stuff behind
Hmm.
photography. Also, YouTube was a huge help. Very grateful to live in a time in my life where you can learn anything online.
Yeah, man. I was talking last episode with Jason Euler. He was saying like now, like if you have a smartphone, literally anyone can be an entrepreneur. You can literally just learn anything, do anything you want if you have the access to the internet.
You have a vast library. It's just, it's one of the greatest resources, that can also get misused as it
True.
does.
Yeah.
But, and sometimes you fall down a rabbit hole, like
Hmm.
everybody doom scrolls a little bit on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
I know I do.
I definitely
But,
do.
but, back in the day, I was so interested in just learning how to do stuff. I remember, the first thing that kind of got me into it was doing long exposures with my camera, which,
Okay.
for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's basically just setting your shutter speed down really slow so that you can capture more light in an image. And so you'd take like an LED light or a flashlight, or, at the time, steel wool was really popular. And so there's
Interesting.
these photos of people that would take steel wool and like a kitchen whisk, you'd stuff it, you'd light the steel wool on fire, and what happens is it
Oh,
sparks up. And so you tie a rope to it and you'd swing it around, and that's how you get like these crazy fire photos of
I've
like a
seen those. Yeah, yeah,
circle
yeah.
and there's sparks coming off it.
I didn't know what that was burning. That's
That's what
interesting.
it's steel wool. Yeah. So we would do that in San Francisco quite a bit. I would not advise doing that. It's pretty dangerous. The fire
Yeah.
department did not like that at all, but it was like cool stuff that we were learning how to do. And I think that art aspect of it was something that really kind of just like kept me wanting to learn more about like composition and the other art forms and not
Mhm.
just the technical stuff. But yeah, that's kind of where I got started with photography.
And how did you go from that to then now what you do is shooting live events?
Yeah, so I can't exactly remember the exact year. I want to say it was maybe it could have been 2016 or I was working at the mall in San Mateo at Hillsdale Mall
Nice.
as I was working at Cheesecake Factory at the time, and one of my best friends had got me a job there, and I had met somebody who I wouldn't realize how influential and helpful they were to kind of my journey and my beginnings at doing this until much later. My friend Raf, he goes by Hellcat.
Oh, yeah, he's been on this podcast as well. He was my
Yeah,
second
yeah,
episode ever. I love Raph.
yeah, him and I kind of hit it off. He had came in with one of my coworkers and they sat down to eat and we just kind of were chopping it up. I think I was a host at the time and I was,
Nice.
my coworker introduced us as like, hey, like you guys both like EDM and like go to raves, like you guys should be friends. And we just hit it off. We ended up actually hanging out a lot. We got really, really close. And he kind of told me about how, he wanted to start making music. He wanted to
Hmm.
DJ more shows. He told me about how he had already kind of started. Um, and so him and I actually worked together a lot. And if it wasn't for him, I definitely would not be, I don't think I'd have gotten all the opportunities and stuff that I got later because him and I helped each other so much.
Yeah.
I'd spend so much time at his house just helping him with just like coming up with mix ideas. And then he would always bring me along to any of his shows.
Yeah.
It was a good, really good friendship that kind of fueled the beginning of what would be now today.
And then from there, obviously, like because of you guys like doing it together, it really helped you guys. He helped you meet other artists and meet other show promoters, and your network started to grow from there as well. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I
um,
would say that the biggest thing to just growing is just networking,
yeah,
especially in this industry.
yeah, absolutely. What was your very first gig? Do you remember that?
Very, very first gig. I would say maybe my first gig is like a DJ photographer would probably be something with him. My very first time I ever got asked to like bring my camera by anybody was probably like an underground show in Oakland,
Okay, yeah.
at some like unadvertised venue. I was going to a lot of these like underground
Warehouse parties.
events, yeah, warehouse
Yeah,
parties and
yeah,
stuff in
yeah.
Oakland at the time, and that was kind of my community of people that I just interfaced with, and so I was just like, oh, let me bring my camera to this.
Hmm.
And then it just kind of worked together where then I had a friend who was trying to play shows. So I connected him with them. And then, of course, he would bring me along. So I'd get to shoot these. And then as we moved on from doing underground stuff to moving more into clubs and the club circuit, that's where you start meeting people that are working at the club,
Yeah,
the talent buyer, the general
yeah.
manager. And then those people are like, hey, you should come in and, you should come in on this Wednesday or this
Okay.
Friday night. And yeah.
And I'm sure your work kind of spoke for itself because your photography, I think, is honestly, at least now, I don't know how it was back then, but at least now you're like one of the most well-known and best photographers that we have in NorCal. So I'm sure that kind of spoke for itself and kind of allowed you to get your foot in the door as well.
I think my biggest advantage, and I still think this today, is it's not necessarily the quality of my work, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of the hustle that I put behind it,
Yeah.
and it's also how I approach relationships with people, and
Yeah.
just trying to be very laid back and easygoing, and just being nice to work with, as well as just that I think that's really actually just the main thing, is just being
Yeah.
pleasant to work with.
And knowing, yeah, it goes back to networking too, is just being able to build relationships, like genuine relationships with people. Were you nervous at all when you first started like shooting gigs, like showing up to gigs with your camera? Like, was that a different experience than like what you were used to, just going out in San Francisco and shooting, random people or random scenery?
I still get nervous.
Yeah. I wasn't
Anytime
sure,
I
because
have
like I
to,
know, like being behind the scenes, like you're not the one on stage. Like you are on stage shooting
yeah.
artists, but you're not the one, like the light's not really on you, the limelight there, people aren't really paying attention to you. So I'm always curious, like some people do get nervous for that, and then other people are like, no, they don't even pay attention to me. So
Yeah, it's I every time I walk into the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium to shoot for anyone, my arms are a little shaky.
oh
It's the nerves, definitely. But once you start to get into it and you start doing a couple of your first clips and you start getting through those first couple shots, at least for me, everything kind of subsides and I
yeah,
feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I feel very, very at home.
that's
Um,
awesome.
and also photography has always been kind of like a therapeutic thing for me. So once I really get into it, the actual mechanics of using the camera and
Yeah,
recording and changing all my settings, that takes over and I focus more on that. I don't think I'll ever get used to and I mean it's better now, but
yeah.
when you're standing behind the artist and you have the LED wall just blasting you with white light, it gets hot. The stage is usually built on top. There's usually like a makeshift stage on top of the stage. And so everything is just vibrating with the
Oh
bass.
yeah,
It's it can be a little,
stability is a little
yeah,
rough.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Do you use any like I know you know Boys in the Pit of like Reno
Mhm.
area,
Yep, yep, yep.
and they have like the stabilizers and stuff that they use for a lot of their videos. Do you use that kind of equipment as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
I have a Ronin S that I use with a little dual grip
Hmm.
extension. It just kind of depends on the nature of the shoot that I'm doing.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to always have it. It
True.
also just depends on if you're doing like, a full recap for somebody or just rock clips and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right. Right. What would you say throughout your process? What would you suggest someone who maybe is in that position where you used to be, where they're starting to learn the mechanics of a camera and the basics of the camera, but eventually their goal is to get into show like live show photography? What are some pointers that you have for those people?
Hmm. If you're still learning, it's a must to kind of know the mechanics of your camera and the
Yeah.
technical knowledge to be able to be ready for any situation. Um, the thing about shooting shows and shooting for artists is definitely that you're going to be presented with a lot of different scenarios and it's going to change from club to club. The lighting's going to change. There's going to be things that happen. I've had
Yeah.
my on-camera flash break. I've had just issues with my microphone. You have to be kind of just ready for any sort of challenges and anything that may or may not pop up.
Bring backups.
And
Bring backup lights, backup camera, or
yeah,
backup mics and all
bring
that stuff.
backup
Yeah.
SD cards,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
backup batteries, make sure
Batteries for sure.
everything's
Yeah.
charged. Yeah. And then on top of that, it's really just like, I don't know, be very authentically yourself,
Yeah.
have your own style that you want to present. Don't worry too much about what other photographers and videographers are doing. It's definitely important to ask questions and just kind of like talk to maybe the other venue people,
Right.
whoever the house photographer is, just kind of get to know them. If you have any questions, always feel free to ask, but really just focus on developing a very unique style that's just yours, because that will eventually, lead to more work. And
It'll give people a reason to choose you over someone
Mhm.
else if you have a unique style about what you do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, everybody, like, it's so easy to buy a camera now and everyone has a
Yeah.
camera on their phones,
Yeah. Dude, even
it's
me, like I just use when I go to festivals, I just use my iPhone, and then I have a stabilizer that I use for, and it comes out perfectly. So
it
it's like,
works.
yeah, it works.
If it works, it works. I've even seen tour managers for really, really big artists that are
uh,
like playing main stage slots just want to do iPhone videos with the
yeah.
little, that little phone
The gimbal.
gimbal.
Yeah. Yep.
They think, it does the same numbers, if not more than,
Yeah.
the same video from somebody
And if
else.
you're getting the
But
same reach and you don't have to pay for it and you can do it
Mhm.
yourself, yeah. Yeah,
And
that makes
that's
sense.
why it's really important to do the whole editing process and really
Yeah.
worry about like the colors of your photos and like what the style is. And yeah, that's where you get the flavor, and the flavor
Right.
is what gets you hired, not just the technical photos.
How long did it take you? Because that's a whole nother beast. I'm sure there's the camera work, but then there's also the editing work. How long
Yeah.
did it take for you to get like your own style within editing?
I've always been really passionate about just kind of editing, even from street stuff. One of the most important elements about street photography for me has always been kind of color grading and making things look like a scene out of a movie. That's actually how
Yeah.
I approach pretty much everything I do. I try to think of I like to joke that everything I post is a scene out of a movie that'll
Hmm.
never be released,
Yeah.
Uh, so as far as that goes, like the editing process, it's definitely there's a lot to learn. Again, YouTube is going to be your friend on that one,
Yeah.
and just approaching it in a way that is unique and just most true to yourself. And also like don't get stuck just doing one thing. There's tons of times where you'll notice the color grade in my photos or my edits will be one way, and then a week later, maybe the next
You
weekend or the
tweak
next
something.
day, yeah,
Yeah.
I change it based on the shoot, the artist playing, the music
Right.
that's going on. So it's really just kind of going with this feeling, and trusting your gut.
It's very similar to like as a musician, it's just another art form. The
Mhm.
same thing you hear musicians say all the time, like just be authentically yourself because that's what's going to make you stand apart.
It's the hardest thing to do, man.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Is there anyone in the industry that you personally look up to? Like, I mean, even outside of music, shooting, just photography in general, is there someone that you really inspire or has inspired you?
Yeah, oh man, it's hard to actually just there's so many people that have helped me kind of along the way. Um, Matt Carey, Hyphy on
Oh
Instagram,
yeah,
a
yep.
really big influence. He's been a really, really good friend of mine and just kind of helped me out on a lot of stuff. Shout out to you, Matt. Nate Vogel, really, really chill guy. I've absolutely loved his work for the longest time, and getting to know him was just, it's been a pleasure. Being able to like meet different people in the photography world that I've seen their work, and then I get to finally put a face to the name
Yeah.
and realize that they're actually really really dope people too. It's nice because um there can be a lot of ego and a lot of
This
like
whole industry,
posturing.
this whole industry is filled with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
that's kind of, well, I mean, that's kind of everything in life, man.
Yeah.
It's
Oh yeah, and everything in ice. Yeah.
it's something you're going to face,
Yeah.
and you don't let it bother you, and you just kind of got to brush off and ignore people like that and really just focus on cultivating a good community of people that are
Yeah.
like-minded, and that uh, are on the same wavelength as you.
Right.
Obviously all the boys in the pit guys, those, I love them so much.
Hmm.
They always kind of bring it to the next level. As far as Bay Area people go, Sailor is a really good friend of mine. She takes amazing photos, amazing photographer. She's actually getting into videography right now too. Um, I mean, PDK Media here in
Oh
the Bay
yeah.
Area, Nick,
Yeah.
super good guy. I've been
Incredible
bringing
work
him,
too.
yeah, I've been
Yeah.
bringing him along for a lot of stuff. Oh man, there's really
So
just
many.
I could go on for a long time.
Personally, what do you think your biggest show you've ever shot at was?
Biggest show I've ever shot at.
Yeah.
Um,
Obviously, Bill Graham was a big one.
yeah, the Bill Graham shows have been great. I got to shoot for DJ Dials, who
Oh,
opened up
sick.
the very first show back at Bill Graham, and it was a Zed show. And I
Oh,
got to get a bunch of amazing photos of Zed's production.
that's dope.
Yeah, that was super awesome. Wobbleland, definitely,
Yeah.
just a few weekends ago. That was a hit, smash hit. Tons of great artists on that lineup. The production of Bill Graham with Vital is
That main
always
stage was
A1.
so sick this year.
It's always A1. It's always
Yeah.
just amazing. Yeah, and also like as far as like big opportunities go, I think this contract that I signed with 1015 and being able to go into 1015 pretty much every week and work there. That is one of the few venues that I absolutely love working
Are
at.
you
And
what is that situation for you? What is
I work for 1015 as a contractor. I help them in their marketing department. I do all their
Gotcha.
on-site media curation. So I record photo and video basically every Friday night there. I'm there on Thursdays as well. And then I also help them with their Latin night on Saturdays, which
Oh,
is called
cool.
Pura. Great. I love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
It's
you're a lot. You grew up listening to
yeah,
Latin music, so
yeah. It was
yeah.
my childhood a little bit, and like my mom's side of the family. It's it's a great time. Everyone at that club has been amazing. Just a pleasure to work with, and it's also such a cool club to work in because they have a full LED wall. It's one of
Yeah.
the few clubs that feels like a venue, but it's also like it's not. I don't know if I can classify it as a mega club, but it feels like one
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
different rooms. You can find different music in different rooms, and
Yeah.
it's a unique experience in San Francisco. And it's also
One of my favorite clubs in San Francisco,
it's been
for
around for
sure.
5 decades. There's so
Yeah.
much history there.
Yeah.
I'm every time I get to walk in there, it's a blessing.
That's awesome. You also do a similar thing for G Code, right? Or is that who your work?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
So
tied in?
no, so
Oh,
G
okay.
Code is a whole separate thing. I actually worked with them. I started working with them much before, I think even pre-COVID. I had originally hopped on as just a media person doing
Okay.
photo and video, and then I'm actually now in charge of their marketing department for socials and just helping them create assets. I
Nice.
work with a really cool team. We are just doing basically house music at the moment. Um, and we do stuff here in the Bay Area and also here in the SoCal region. So we're
Right.
working on a set of shows coming up in San Diego. We've also done stuff in Austin and Texas. That is a little bit it's kind of the same work, but that's for a promoter instead of for the venue.
Yeah, instead of a club, yeah. Give me a little bit of information about G Code because I honestly I don't know too much about it personally.
So G Code is it's a house music promoter. Originally started by Avi and Anthony, who goes by Go Gary Gold. Avi
Okay.
goes by Baker on social media.
Oh, I
That's
know
his
Baker.
DJ
Yep.
name. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We have a talent buyer, Frankie, who goes by Trust.
Oh,
And
I didn't know
then
Trust worked for G Code. That's
yeah, so
dope. I
he's
love
he's our
Trust.
talent buyer, and he also helps us run ads for
Awesome.
marketing. We also have our own in-house VJ, Bill. Billy, he absolutely smashes it. We have him come on site. We've brought him out for our shows in Austin. I can't remember the date it started because obviously I was hired much later.
Mhm.
I had actually met them when I was working a show at 1015 for an artist, and somebody had introduced me to them. Basically, they had let me know that they were looking for a photographer, and
Oh, dope.
they were throwing these really dope house music parties here in the Bay Area. And so I said, well,
I
I
live
love
here
house
and I'm a
music.
photographer.
I love house music too. And at the time I was mostly just doing bass music, and I wanted to kind of expand my horizons and do more house, do more techno stuff too. Um, and so it was just a cool opportunity that I wanted to hop on. And yeah, it's been a really cool experience to kind of see things from more of a promoter aspect.
Yeah.
We've booked everything from Dr. Fresh to John Summit,
Oh,
Sizak, a lot of different G House,
yeah.
bass house artists, and some more tech stuff too.
I need to next
Um,
time send me some information next time you guys
yeah,
have something in San Francisco because I will
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
come out. I would love to
Yeah,
come to your
it's
guys' show.
it's it's a killer time,
Yeah.
man. My
Yeah.
favorite show we've probably done is we did a Sans Merci takeover at Audio,
Oh, sick.
and it wasn't like it wasn't sold out or anything, but it
Right.
was just so much fun, so much of a fun show.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Your role, you said from the beginning you started, you were just hired as a photographer. It's changed slightly since then, right? What's been added to your plate as far as G codes?
So the primary focus is really just hopping on social media and kind of coming up with like handling the content that we post,
Hmm.
as well as kind of organizing our photo and video content, and then coming up with just kind of ways to best present the brand online and on social media, both on Facebook, Instagram. I really want to get us up on TikTok. And
Man,
also on
TikTok's a
Twitter.
whole nother animal, man.
Yeah, but it's this is all stuff that it's if you wanna stay on top of the
Yeah,
ball, like
you have
it's
to.
stuff that yeah, they're
Yeah,
free apps. They're just resources and tools to
yeah,
use. And I'm all about, that's how I learned how to do anything. So
absolutely.
I'm all about using those free tools to the best of our advantage.
So with G Code, obviously you said that in they throw parties in San Francisco, NorCal, and then they also have SoCal, and you're traveling back and forth between the two. How do
Mhm.
you manage to stay up on everything with photography and running all the social, like stay up on your day-to-day duties, but also like be traveling back and forth all the time?
That's a great question, man.
That's a great question.
Yeah, drinking a lot of water,
Yeah.
making sure you're taking your, your supplements every day, and
Yeah.
making sure you're taking your vitamins. Definitely waking up early and going for a walk and a cup of coffee.
Yes, that is.
It's
I do that too. I love morning
it's
walks, man.
yeah, it's little habits and little discipline
Yeah.
things that you have to do, and you have to have some structure in your life.
Yeah.
Otherwise, things can kind of
Go
spiral out of
sideways.
control. Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit.
Next thing I wanted to talk about was you are also in management, right?
Yeah, so I actually just got brought on to the 4-4 offset team as a manager.
Excellent. Who do you have anyone signed under you yet?
So we are working with an artist right now.
Don't have to give it away if it's not a
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
for sure thing yet.
it's a little bit of a handshake agreement at the moment.
Okay.
But as soon as it turns into more than that and a longer handshake agreement, I think it's going to be more official. We're also still working on some more like legal formal stuff with the
Hmm.
4-4 offset name. So it's hard for us to brand certain artists under our name just because
Right.
there's still paperwork that needs to get
Right. Right.
signed
Right. Right.
for the company. But yeah, I'm working with a really, really dope house producer right now. We're
Awesome.
actually working on a whole rebrand for him, just kind of moving the direction of basically his socials and his marketing away from himself and more into something more digital
Okay.
media. That's as much as I can say
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
That's yeah. Don't give too much away. How did you go from photography into management? What made you want to get into management?
So I think the biggest thing for me and what's kind of always motivated me through the process of my job choices, another reason why I thought it was good to mix photography and music and help artists and help venues. It's this aspect of
Yeah.
helping. Um, I
I feel like
I've
it's such a
always
common theme with managers and people who work in the back end of the music industry is just like I have a passion for to see other people succeed and I want to have my hand in like making an impact on people's lives.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's it's been a huge motivation to me pretty much like I mean since I was a kid. I think it's just kind of values that I was raised on, always helping out others and just trying to be a good beneficial resource to other people. And so realizing that hey, this is something that you can turn into a job and a profession, and you can actually help other people make money, and it also helps you make money,
Yeah.
and you get to do it in like a very creative way.
Yeah.
It naturally I've always kind of like played with the idea of working in like other stuff in music, so doing stage management stuff is something that I've done, and doing media team
Mm,
management, like having a media team, that was something that I ended up getting into as well. And then it naturally just kind of progressed where I was like, okay, well, I want to work more one-on-one, specifically with artists to help them with their kind of branding and their marketing, because that's already basically what I do for venues and
right.
promoters.
Yeah.
So why not work more one-on-one with them? Also, kind of, I have this relationship with record labels already,
Yeah.
and meeting agents and meeting the venues, and so I
You're
have that
already plugged
relation.
in.
I already have the
Yeah.
network, so I already have a few things that will actually be really helpful
Yeah.
as a manager. And so it just kind of naturally went from there to there. And yeah, like I said, like I really, really just I get a lot of joy out of helping see someone succeed and just kind of motivating them and moving them more towards their goals.
That's awesome.
It's a really cool feeling to feel like a bigger part of another project.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What is one thing along your journey that you would have that you wish you would have known in the beginning of your journey?
I would have to say that just not being scared about asking for what I thought I deserved.
Yeah.
when you're first starting out, you're going to do most likely a lot of shows for zero money
Right. At the
or
beginning, a lot of people just have to get their foot in the door. Like for me,
yeah,
I worked for years for free.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you do get paid. You get paid in exposure dollars,
Yeah. Yeah.
and unfortunately, I've tried to pay my rent in exposure, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
My landlord was not too thrilled about that. So um, it's something that you're gonna eventually have to have that conversation and come to the crossroad where you're gonna have to start asking for money because you're looking at how
Yeah.
much time you're investing in the equipment you're investing. There's all these costs if you're traveling somewhere, and then just your the raw time you spend on site doing the
Yeah.
work, the labor, and then the labor of actually editing the photos, and
Yeah.
then yeah, it's just as much of a job as anything else. And so being comfortable enough to ask at the minimum for travel compensation or whatever gas or mileage is if you still feel like you're not there where you can start charging for your work.
Yeah.
But really look at take a look at what you're putting out there, see if your clients are posting it, if they're using it a lot, if they're hitting you up again for more work, there's value in there. And so
Yeah.
you have that conversation where you at least start out with a small amount and then
Work your way
work
up.
your way up, and just always let them know like, hey, like I don't know what to charge you. Can you give me some ideas? People are always going to lowball you, but at
Yeah.
least you get some sort of money out of it. Eventually it'll grow and grow.
Yeah.
And yeah, that definitely was, I had to be one of the hardest things was just like getting comfortable enough where I could ask more than $100. And then from there it was like, well, can I ask for the 175, 150?
Yeah.
And some people say no. And so you go, okay, I can't charge that. But then you get a client one day that wants to pay you $300 and you go, oh, that's what this is worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
also,
then you start getting a better idea of like, okay, how
yeah,
much am I actually worth? And
yeah, and then
being
you
able to
start
say no to the
meeting,
low ball people. Yeah.
yes, and then
Yeah.
you start meeting other people that are doing it for X or Y amount, and that doesn't matter as much because this should be so uniquely yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
that what other people get paid, it's good to know and have that
Yeah.
information, but that's not a standard for you to hold your pricing to.
Right.
You should always charge what you're most comfortable with for the work, but also be very honest with yourself and be very objective when you're looking at your work because there is a value to it. And I mean, I just don't want to see people get taken advantage of.
Right. And that goes with even more than just photography. Really, any career in this industry is whether you're an artist, a manager, like your manager as a cut, what cut do you want, percentage do you want to take? As a DJ, how much are you going to get paid for each show that you play? It goes with everything. So I feel like that's a super important topic. When was the moment you really realized that you weren't getting what you deserved in the industry?
I think I was shooting for, so the first ever like club I ever got to shoot for consistently was this club that popped up at 715 Harrison Street after EPR closed called
Oh
Amplify.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Amplify, it was the same thing. It was electronic music on Wednesdays, and I would be there every Wednesday, once a week, 4 times a month, and they were paying me like $100, and I was there all night.
Yeah.
I was there all
Which
night.
are long nights.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
fun. It was great, and it was a cool experience because I would mess with my flash, and I learned how to shoot indoors, and I learned how to take consistent photos, and I figured out consistent color grading to work for the space. But at the same time, after doing that over and over, and then basically talking to several people,
Right.
it was just something that like I started to realize, okay, I am doing all of the marketing content for this page. Like this is all me.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. Like it's just me. And I was like, all right, well, I was at the same time because I was meeting artists that would come in and play, and then I would meet other industry people. They would ask me to do other smaller outdoor festivals. They'd ask me to shoot other shows or their shows playing in a given place, and they were offering me much more than that for like an hour of
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah. You're like,
And
these
I
guys are
was there
paying me
for,
this much. These guys
yeah.
aren't willing to pay me anymore.
And so sometimes you realize that, some people just aren't willing to spend the budget on you. And that could
Yeah,
be because they don't find what you're doing as important as other stuff,
right.
or your work isn't up to par yet to be charged and they don't see the
Right.
value in
That
you.
was my next question is like sometimes like you working for Amplify, like you said you learned a bunch through that experience. It's like sometimes it's almost a good thing when you're starting out to not ask for so much as you're learning and just take it as like a learning opportunity as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing like I try to tell people all the time, like there's nothing wrong with taking those, either the freebie gigs
Yeah.
or taking something where you're learning as you go. That's how
Yeah.
I got started.
Yeah.
There's just
It comes a point in time.
there comes a point in time where you have to
Yeah.
look at what you're doing and being like, okay, am I just giving away something?
Right.
And should I be charging more for this?
Yeah. Did you lose any clients searching out more money and asking for more money? Did anyone like, hey, we can't do this. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm at the point where sometimes I get all, people inquire about me shooting their set or their show somewhere. And
They're like, holy shit, it's way too
yeah, well,
high.
it kind of depends because I also try to be very flexible and I look at the
Right.
time slot someone's playing. I know not every artist is getting paid the same.
True.
And then I also look at what I'm providing them. If they want XYZ, I can only do it at a certain price,
Right.
and I'm willing to go down a little bit, but at a certain point, it's just like, all right, well, you want me there for an hour. I
Yeah.
have like an hour of my time is worth this much.
Yeah. How did you overcome, like, did you just have enough like income from other shows that it didn't really matter that much, or did you take it like a hit personally at all during that time?
I've definitely always, yeah, don't be mistaken. I've had a day job for
Yeah.
majority of my time shooting. So this has always been kind of money on top.
Got you.
I've always made sure to have a way to kind of sustain myself. And I was doing, 3, 4 shows a week and doing a day job during the week.
Yeah.
I've always balanced multiple stuff just because at the time when I was doing the most work, I wasn't really getting paid as much as maybe like I am now.
Yeah.
I currently don't have a day job just because I've been able to work out good contracts. I've also been able to expand the amount of work that I do.
Yeah. And
And
the SLVCKER brand is growing too. So it's,
yeah,
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 a lot
it's
of
more
people know who you are.
encompassing. It's not just photo video. Like I'm trying to move it more into a more digital media marketing
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I'm
Yeah.
also trying to help other creative people get jobs, help them get rates they should.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you had the same issues with figuring out how much you're worth in the other facets that you're involved in with the industry, like with management and with working for G Code? Like, have you faced the same like struggles of like, I don't know how much I should be making off of this?
Yeah, and I've definitely been lucky enough to work with people who I trust and I think give me an honest answer. But one of the things that I always, and I tell people you should do this too, start with something you're comfortable with and the client is comfortable with and
Yeah.
work from there. And then do a test period of a month or 2, 3 months.
Right.
See how much work it is, see what you've been providing, and then touch base on renegotiating the actual dollar amount and just be like, look, here's what I've been providing. I know it's, way more valuable than this. Can we renegotiate to a higher price? Or if it's much less work and the client's not happy with it, then they can also, be like, well, I think we should be paying less. So
Right.
it kind of gives us option for wiggle room later,
Yeah.
which it makes it a lot easier to ask for a set price at the start, but almost always they're going to renegotiate higher because it's
If you do a good job, then
yeah, if you
yeah,
do a good job and you're
show your
adding
worth.
value,
Right.
you're giving them more revenue, and then you should also in turn be making more.
Right.
So
Right. That makes sense.
yeah.
Awesome, man. Before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to get out there?
No, I mean I can never touch base enough on the whole like authenticity thing and just
Yeah.
being yourself.
Yeah.
One of the most it's just it really is one of the most important things. And not only just like what we're talking about right now, which is the music industry and doing photography and media, but also just life.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a lot of more opportunities just being very genuine, and people are gonna see it, and people are gonna want to work with you more and want to give you opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
No one wants to give opportunities to people that are just kind of, like just not great to be around.
Right.
And this
Yeah.
is a very, very social industry. It's really all about just, in the end, working with people that you want to work with, and working with
Yeah.
people that you can laugh with, hang out with, and also you can rely on giving you a solid product and not slack.
Right. Hashtag slacker.
Hashtag.
Awesome, man. Before we get out of here, what are you most excited about coming up in this next year, or in this year? I guess it's February.
So it definitely depends on how this year goes. Like, we don't know for sure.
Right.
But if everything goes kind of according to plan as of right now, there's a couple tours that I might be able to be going on either this year or next.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to be
Awesome.
working more one-on-one with some artists that are just absolutely like smashing it music wise right now. And I'm going to be really being more hands-on with them and kind of developing their brand, and just hopefully taking them to the next level and making them more of a household name, as well as just, hopefully learning more skill sets and just
constantly learning.
Yeah, also
so important.
helping more people.
Yeah, making an impact. Well, how can the listeners of this show get in touch with you and follow that journey of this next year?
Yeah, on Instagram at SLVCKER with a V, so it's SLVCKER. Don't know why I did that, but I just thought it was cool. You can also find me on Facebook, John C. Slack, Twitter at Dapper Slacker.
I like that name.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not on TikTok yet, but I got to get on that.
Yes.
Instagram is probably the best bet to kind of see how I'm fooling around and what I'm doing, because I'm always up to something. So
excellent. Okay, final question before we get out of here. I ask this question to every person, every guest on the show. If there's one piece of advice that you could tell yourself at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey into the music industry, what would it be and why? One piece of advice you could tell yourself at the beginning.
One piece of advice.
Yeah.
Probably just not to second guess myself so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that has to be it, because there was a lot of moments where I second guessed myself and I talked myself out of opportunities, and it wasn't the end all be all, because I'm still here and I'm still rocking and I feel like I'm on the right path. But there were definitely moments where I didn't see something in front of me, and I look back and I go, you know what, I should have just done it just to see what the outcome could have been.